Mark, I'm a big fan. Let me just say for 5 seconds, I'm a massive fan. So
I'm a massive
fan. I got to geek out for a second because then I got to get professional. But I just love you guys. So all that. Eddie, you want to say anything real quick?
I'm a huge fan, and this is kind of embarrassing, Mark, but whenever I get sick with nasal congestion, I sing your songs. Just because your voice is so cool to me, and that's the only time I can get close to that. It
sounds like that. It gets yes. So that's us geeking out. Now we'll be professional if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Mark, you're in Sawyer Brown. Does everybody think you're Sawyer?
Yes.
Because there are Hootie, Darius. He's not really Hootie. You're not Sawyer. When you name yourself Sawyer Brown after a person, or was it a street? Was it a street? A person?
Street, yes. Yeah.
Did
Sawyer
you
Brown
know
Road.
that was going to be the thing where everybody thought you were Sawyer?
No. Well, because I wear the Panama hat on stage and Tom Sawyer and the whole thing. We really like the name, like Barefoot Jerry and a lot of the bands that had like named Marshall Tucker, Leonard Skinner. So that was kind of the thought. But really didn't have an idea that people were going to start calling me Sawyer, but they still do.
I would think so. Like with Leonard Skinner, I would think that rhymes. That's funny. That's not someone's name.
Yeah.
But I think Sawyer Brown's like a dude, the mailman. Like that's like the dude who lives down the road. Yeah. And I think forever, as a kid, I probably thought Sawyer was the lead singer. Yeah. And I bet that happens all the time. Are you Sawyer?
Yeah. I did an interview last week with someone new in radio.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, this is Mark Miller. And she said, well, are you handling Sawyer?
And know what? God bless them. Sawyer, good to see you.
Yeah.
So, hey, a couple things. One, we'll talk about the new record in a second, but your book, The Boys and Me, and it's a memoir that you wrote about the band and about your life and all the times. And I'm sure the book's great and stuff, but I want to go to the back here. So, Eddie, I want to read you one of these because what you do is you ask people to say nice things about you or the book, right? And someone wrote this. Mark Miller is a great guy and a true, loyal friend. The Sawyer Brown Band is my favorite band. No wonder they have been at the top for 40 years and still counting. Do you know who said that? Larry Bird.
Wow. Our buddy Larry Bird.
Not your buddy. So, Mark, Eddie signed my Larry Bird ball.
I know. I saw it.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, what an idiot.
I love Larry Bird. How do you know Larry Bird?
I've known Larry for a long time. He's a big Sawyer Brown fan.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so, but Larry's from Indiana.
Yep.
It's a country boy for sure. I think at times maybe we just associate him with the Celtics and Boston. And even though that's a very country-centric place now, maybe back then it wasn't. But yeah, he's a country boy. The first time you met him, did he come to a show? Did you go to a game? What happened there?
First time I met him, his brother had come to his show.
Eddie?
Mark.
Oh, the other brother.
His older brother.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, and so Mark tells me Larry's a big fan, and I had a place in Naples. Larry also had a place in Naples, and he said, if you go down, Larry'd like to golf with you.
That's crazy.
So I get a call from Larry to golf, and so I golf with Larry, and we ended up, I was down there 6 days. We ended up golfing every day that I was down there. That was like in 93 or 94.
Wow. That's like right after Dream Team stuff.
Yeah.
Did you talk about that?
No.
You didn't talk about basketball at all?
Larry's okay. The very first day, we're literally driving. He picks me up. It's about 25 minutes to the golf course, and we're on the way. One of my songs comes on the radio. He looks at me like this and just kind of shakes
rolls his eyes.
Yeah, rolls his eyes. So we golf, 4.5 hours. He doesn't say a word to me. Nothing.
Wait, you mean not even a single word? Not about
he would say, there's a trap up here on the left hand side. There's there's
were you in the same cart?
In the same cart.
That's so awkward.
Yeah, really weird.
Yeah. And we finish the whole day. We go back to the hotel. He doesn't talk to me on the way over or on the way back. And we get to the hotel. He said, hey, man, that was a blast. You want to go tomorrow?
He had a great time.
That's funny. So, but your interpretation, was he just so competitive? And just
No, he's very introverted and very quiet and very private.
That would be my best friend. We could just go and say nothing.
Yeah.
That's why Mike D and I get along so wonderfully. We don't say a word to each other for days, and we're like, I love you too, man.
Okay, so we golf like every day for 5 days. Then we're going to take the next day off. He said, I'm going to take the tomorrow off. So he calls me late that night, and he says, "Hey, can you go with me tomorrow?" He said, I just got called. I got to go, do a favor for a guy. And he said, I want you to go with me and ride in the cart with me because I don't want to have to talk to anybody.
And you're already good at not talking.
So I'm the guy.
Funny.
I'm the go-to guy for not talking.
So, Mark, at all, you didn't feel like you needed to fill in those silent spaces just to not make it awkward?
Because I'm the same way.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because I'm that way too.
Introvert, same way. Don't need to talk.
Yeah, introverted until it's time to be extremely extroverted.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think a little bit of that from me is because I've had to become extremely extroverted. So then you're like, I've got so much energy.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like I'm bothering people too.
Yep. Right here.
Yeah, I feel like if I'm
textbook, same way.
Did you ever have imposter syndrome where you were to the point of like, well, listen, we're killing it, but do I really deserve it? And I'm saying you don't because I love you, but like me, I feel that all the time.
Every day I get up. Every day. Yep. Very blessed. Can't believe this is still going on and the whole thing. Yeah.
One more Larry Bird thing. He's like 6'9", 6'10".
6'10". He's huge.
He's huge to be as good of a shooter, ball handler. He's so big.
When you see him and you go back and you look at all those clips, and I was a huge fan. So I the only show I was late to was when they were playing the Pistons, and he steals the inbound pass, and they beat the Pistons. But when you look at those, you look at Larry and you think, the way he plays, he's 6'2", but he's 6'10".
Yeah, he plays like a guard.
He's huge. Like if he walked in that door, he'd have to duck. And when he came in, like that was the first thing I noticed about him. And when you see other guys talk about him, was how big he is when you meet him. You can't believe he's that big.
You a big sports guy in general?
Yes.
Favorite are all your favorite teams Florida teams since you grew up in Florida?
Florida State's my favorite football team, but all my folks are from Kentucky, so I'm a big Kentucky fan. But I'm also I'm friends with the coaches at Arkansas as well. So
which ones?
Keith Smart.
Oh yeah,
Keith.
Coach Smart's all we hung with Coach Smart a few months ago. Yeah, he was an NBA coach too.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so the book. What's in the book? Is it your life? Is it the band's journey? Like if we read the book, what are we going to get from it?
Well, from my childhood all the way up and through the band, and I'll just give you a couple snippets. My job I played college basketball at the University of Central Florida. My job in high school and college, I was a trick water skier at Walt Disney World.
That's awesome.
So here's my question. Where I go in my head is, you're obviously a college athlete, but you're a trick water skier at the same time. Meaning, if anything goes wrong,
right, you
can't be a college athlete because you hurt your ankle trick water skiing.
Yeah. But things were different back then. I mean.
Well, body still broke back then. I mean,
Yeah.
Did you ever hurt yourself trick water skiing that you couldn't play ball?
No.
Did you ever hurt yourself playing ball? You couldn't trick water ski?
No.
And so I guess growing up in Florida on the water, you just learned how to ski really well. And how did that turn into trick water skiing?
Well, the job at Walt Disney World was big. I was Pinocchio in the water ski show. And so
you water skied as Pinocchio. This is the greatest story.
That's awesome.
It keeps unlayering one beautiful thing at a time.
So you have to do tricks. Like, so they want to see you skiing backwards and stuff. And you would have to do, like, we would do shows over at the Polynesian Hotel, the Contemporary. And you would have to do like beach starts, dock starts, and all that kind of stuff. So you have to learn that later. Like once you see this is the job, So.
As Pinocchio, though, you're doing it.
Yeah, that was the toughest part because you've got this helmet on inside of this rubber head, and you've got these little eyes that you have to see out of. And when they get wet, you can't see. It's like a screen door if the screen gets wet.
And when you lie, the nose gets bigger.
And if you're like, I can see.
Exactly.
That's wild. All that's wild. Were you a pretty good ball player?
Yes.
And do you still play?
That's how I know Keith Smart. I played with Keith on the Fort Wayne Fury at the CBA. Yeah, he and Damon Bailey. I was a teammate of those guys.
And Keith ended up playing at Indiana.
Yeah, he played at Indiana. IU won the national championship.
Like made the shot.
Hit the shot.
Hit the shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you still play pickleball at all?
I do.
You got to invite me because some of these. Here's the thing. There's a group of guys that play here a lot, like Kane, Sam, but they play at 10 o'clock on like a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
I have to do this show.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming, this is an assumption, Mark, that you don't play at 10 o'clock on a weeknight.
No, I don't. No.
So if you ever need an extra player.
All of our guys play earlier. Like we play at like at 7.
Oh, well, see, I got this job to do too. Unless it's a
7
weekend.
at night. 7 at night.
When do you want to play?
No, you're not building a game around me. No. Do you say 7 at night or 7 in the morning?
No, 7 at night.
I'll play. Okay, I'll play that.
Yeah,
Where do you guys play? Don't say. Is it like a public gym or does somebody have a place, a court?
I have a place.
You have a place. Okay. Before you leave, I don't know if you have my number already, but I'm going to give it to you. And if you need a player, don't create a game for me because I'm not good.
Okay.
But we travel around and do sports shows and play with college basketball teams, NBA teams. But I need a game that I can actually play in.
Okay. Yeah.
Look at still playing.
That's awesome.
I was a college ball player. Your voice, you played with us, and we're very thankful for that. We did our charity show at the Ryman, and we're big fans, and we invited you to come out, and you said yes, and you crushed. Your voice is still, it feels to me, as good as it was ever. Why is that?
Because I've never taken a day off. I mean, really, this year we're coming up on our 6,000th show.
Dang.
So the only time we ever took off was COVID, and everybody did.
Yeah.
So I've just, and I always tell people I got a 3-note range. That's why he can sing with me.
Yeah.
I feel good about singing. Like I feel like I can sing his songs really good in the shower.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm nailing it. But then I hear it back. You ever record yourself and you think you sound good, but then you hear it back and it's not as good as you thought? You started singing at what age?
In college.
Did you have an interest in music as a young kid?
When I was very young, my mom would make me sing in church, and she took me to a talent show when I was in the 2nd grade. And it was a big talent show, and I won it. And I was so nervous about getting up in front of people. I told her, never again, I'm done. And so I didn't do anything. And it really affected me. I mean, in high school, I wouldn't even read out loud in class. And so when I got in college, I had a buddy that had a poem. He asked me to put some music to it because I taught myself how to play guitar. And I was a junior in college, and I put this music to this song, and then I decided, well, maybe I could write a song. So I wrote a couple songs. I had a friend at Disney that was in the band leader. I played him these songs, and he says, "Dude," he says, "You wrote these songs?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, who's that singing?" And I said, "Well, that's me." And he said, "Man," he said, "there's something here." So that was in February. So I had just written the songs in February. I write 8 more songs, and a month later, my brother talks me into coming to Nashville on spring break. Me and Hobie, I've known Hobie since the 8th grade. We went to high school together. We borrow a buddy's van, we sleep in the van, and we come to Nashville in spring break and start knocking on doors. And what freaked us out was everybody took us serious. They would listen to the tape. I got a meeting with Tony Brown. He was at RCA at the time. I mean, and they're saying, well, here's the deal. You have to be here. You need to move here, and you have to be here. And so I worked the rest of the summer, and Hobie and I packed up. I left my senior year. I went and talked to my coach and said, I'm on a red shirt and go try this, and came to Nashville.
So when you are a child and you sing, in my head, I see a 2nd grader performing, I got to think everywhere. Did you have a deep voice for a 2nd grader?
No.
Okay, all right, just making sure.
No, puberty took me down.
Got it.
Puberty took me down. I couldn't, it was the worst. I couldn't sing it, and my voice kept getting lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. And it just about took me down. And
so from that time of elementary school to in college, you really weren't singing?
No, not at all. But I loved music.
Yeah.
I loved music. And my mom listened to country radio. I wasn't a fan. I loved Creedence. I loved the Beach Boys is my all-time favorite. And James Taylor, and then Elton John, and then Billy Joel. That's what I loved. But my mom listened to country radio. So when I started to write, it was kind of a hybrid. That's where like you get step that step. It was like this hybrid of both. Looking back, and I was watching some old news clips, and I was watching like some Crook and Chase stuff, and
and I love them too. And to have them, I've sat with them, and like that to me, it's like very exciting. But to hear them at times describe you guys, because back then, and if I'm wrong, you can tell me, but you were kind of like pop country to people, and they're like, they're not all country. But now it's like it's so country now, and that's what I always say is like the one thing that's been consistent about country music is there's always people that are pushing the limits, and that ends up being what people now consider traditional country.
Yeah.
Have you seen that consistently happen with country music since?
Yeah, and I will tell you, I mean, Nashville was so locked down at the time. If it hadn't been for Star Search, there's a real good chance we would never gotten a deal. We wouldn't have made it.
Even though people were taking you seriously, and I know you guys were the band for like Don King's his road band, right? So where did that happen before you guys actually tried to make it together?
We were on the club circuit. I mean, the Sawyer Brown. This is the first band I was ever in.
Was it called Sawyer Brown?
It was called Savannah. And we toured.
They're like, hi, Savannah. I'm Jim. They thought you were Savannah. You went from one to the next. Yeah.
Yeah, we toured around the Southeast in club dates, and we were killing it in the clubs. And so, but we would come back home to Nashville. We would do a showcase, and it would be hilarious because we would be up, doing, just rocking out, and all these record execs would come in to see the showcase, and we would see them walking out halfway through the first song.
Because they didn't
because
think
of the way
what you
we were dressed.
Yeah. It wasn't that you weren't good. It was like they're obviously not fitting what we're looking for.
Yeah, we looked like the Rolling Stones, and because that's what we wanted to be. We wanted to be We wanted to be a country rock band.
Mm-hmm. So, who decides we're going to pursue Star Search, or do they come for you?
They came to town and they had an audition. We didn't even know what it was, but we were gonna be able to get a videotape, because some of the clubs out west wanted to see us. So we went strictly to get this videotape. So we auditioned, and that was on a Friday. But they had told us, said, we've already booked the show up through show 22. We don't even know what that means. We just want the videotape. and they had taped they said, we've taped 4 shows, but we've booked all the way through 22. So we get a call on Monday, and they said, hey, you've been bumped in front of everyone. They want you on the next show. And so he says, we want you out here in L.A. tomorrow. So I said, well, we can't afford, I start making excuses because I don't know how this is going to happen. And he says, buddy, my job, his name was Steve Stark, and he's in the documentary as well. It's pretty cool. But he said, my job is to get you here tomorrow. So we go out, and we're on the next day, and it was like the theme to the Beverly Hillbillies is playing in my head. I'm on the plane, and it's like, we can't believe this. So we get out there, and so we win the first show, and we're we don't even know what that really means. So Steve comes back into the dressing room after. Everybody's like all excited, and we're kind of. But they'd given us 5 different dressing rooms, but we all dressed in one. We were so intimidated. So we're all in this dressing room, and he comes in and he says, okay, we have another show in 3 days, blah, blah, blah. And we're sitting there, and we're kind of stunned. And he goes, what's wrong? And I said, man, we just brought enough clothes for today. And so he goes, hang on. So he goes in, he comes back in, he's got like 5 vouchers. He says, we have you booked on a red eye. We want you to go home. And he looks at me and he says, Mark, I want you to bring back a lot of clothes. So we were out there for 6.5 months.
Wow. Whoa. Hey, Morgan, Star Search, for example, because think of American Idol, but before American Idol, but think of Ryan Seacrest, but that's Ed McMahon.
That's right.
Yeah. It was that show. It was the original version of that. And they would give stars, like 3.5 stars, 4.5 stars. Did you get the money? Do you actually get $100,000?
Yeah.
And a recording contract, or was it like $100,000?
There was no. They weren't allowed to offer it because of the California laws at the time. It was only a TV show, so they were just. It was. We got $5,000 when we won, but we were getting after scales, so we thought we were rich, and in our minds we were, because we were getting like $1,600 for after scale, and then $5,000 for winning each show. We kept winning, and then the ultimate prize was $100,000.
And you got the money.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
after you performed 3 or 4 times, did you feel like, hey, we might be onto something? Like we're liked.
Yeah. Well, it was the 5th show. We went to the Beverly Center, the mall out there, and people freaked out. It was like Hard Day's Night. The security guards had to come get us and get us back to the hotel. And
that's wild. It's weird to think of too, because there were only like 4 channels. Let's be honest, we didn't have many channels back then.
Yeah.
And so everybody, and that was a big show.
It was huge, and we just we found out really quick. I mean, the first show we did after that was an afternoon show in Palm Beach, at the fair, and it was an afternoon. It was a midweek, and they had crowd controllers like 20,000 people.
Life had changed.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you guys do that show, but then you come back to Nashville. Did they, because you had success there, were they like, well, we knew you were good? Was it that, or were people like, you know what, we were wrong. Now we kind of see what we were missing.
We ended up then getting an offer from every label, and we signed with Curb in Capitol. Curb and Capitol did a joint venture for us. But this was the funny thing was, all of the LA offices were calling that Nashville office and why don't you know about this band? And they had to say, we did know about them. We passed on them. And so,
like their bosses were calling them.
Yeah.
Going, hey,
yeah,
what's up? Why?
Yeah.
That's
and
wild.
the first 3 albums were handled in LA. We had LA budgets. I remember our video budgets were $150,000 in 1985.
That's a lot.
Our video budgets.
Yeah, it's not that now.
No.
I mean, $150,000 back then.
So it was crazy, and we were selling a lot of records.
So, we got a few things we're talking about here. Let's talk about the album for a second. So it's Desperado Troubadours. What I noticed about it was when I was looking at the track list was that Cody Jinks. You wrote a song with Cody Jinks.
Yeah, Cody and I wrote Desperado Troubadours. He and I in Tennessee Jet, and Cody texted me yesterday, and he goes, "Man, I'm freaking out. I'm in my favorite motorsports store, and Desperado Troubadours just came on."
That's cool.
And he goes, "I'm having like a geek fanboy moment right now." And he goes, I'm like telling everybody, like I wrote this song.
We really like Cody, and
he's the best.
Yeah, and someone who like paid his dues and came up organically the hard way, but also says this ain't the way you want to come up. Like he's very honest about that.
Yeah.
So how did you and Cody even get to know each other?
I think it was maybe the thing that we did at the Opry, and he came in and he loved the walk, and he was just so I'd met him there. We ran into him at in Montana, but my daughter had lived in Texas for a couple years. She became a big fan, and she kept telling me, "You and Cody need to write songs together." She picked him out, and so we connected, and we actually had to do a Zoom write. It was the first time I'd ever done a Zoom write, and we wrote Desperado Troubadours. And on the heels of that, I had the idea for Under This Old Hat. And so we rolled right into that as well. So ended up writing a couple songs, but have become really good friends since then.
The record came out earlier this month, and Blake is one of the producers of the record.
He produced the whole record.
So what does that mean? Everybody has a different role as producer. What did Blake do?
He was there from start to finish.
He was really there and was
start to
involved.
Finish. I mean, I flew out to Oklahoma, and come to find out, he's a huge historian of the band. I mean, he was asking me questions, that were like, I'm like, holy cow. So he's a huge historian.
How do you even get with him to know he wants to produce it? Like, where did that even come
Well,
up?
he had done a People magazine article, and he said that Sawyer Brown was his first concert, and The Race Is On was the first record he ever bought. So my brother, who's our manager, just says, hey, let's get somebody to call him. So Narvo, his manager, gets a hold of him. Well, he calls me within 5 minutes. And he goes, dude, I know you produce a lot of your records too, but he said, man, I'm in. I would love, he goes, you're my hero. So I would love to do this. So I go out to Oklahoma. We talk through everything. And I said, I want it to be a 90s record. I want it to sound like us. I don't want to go chasing something. And he loved that. So when he and Gwen flew in, and we camped out in the studio for like 3 or 4 days.
Dang, that's cool.
and he was the first one there, last one to leave. But his instincts, you know, and also this is what I'll tell you, and you probably already know this, but he, you know, has this Jethro Bodine like personality that, you know, he'll come off sometimes like this goofy country boy. He's really, really smart. He's like really smart, and his memory, and so he can recall songs, things. So he was doing that in the studio left and right, and he has all these great instincts. And there's a couple songs that I thought he saved. We got in there and started struggling, you know, because they were all brand new. We don't do demos, so we just write a song and go make a record. So he was really like, he was a champion on some of those things.
I want to play a little bit of Desperado Troubadours. It's the name of the record. It's also the last song. Ray, would you play that?
And we ride off in the sunset justified.
Thanks. Sounds good, man.
Thank you.
Do you like to hear yourself back?
No.
Because I hate hearing myself back. Do you ever hear, even in, you know, some of the biggest songs that you guys have done, do you ever hear slight imperfections of things in hits, or did you get them exactly right before you pressed them?
Early on, a lot of imperfections that I'll hear. But because early on, I always would get nervous when I would go in the studio. So I always felt like I sang better like live sometimes. Like I would like do a song like The Walk or something live one night and go, God, I wish I would have sang like that on the record.
Do you feel like it's because you were freer, like just making a sports analogy, if you're not tight and worried about it, you usually play better, but then you get in your head, you want to play well, and it tightens you up a little bit.
Absolutely, 100%. And I really felt that early on, you know.
The Race is On, 1989. And what's wild to me is some of the songs that are the biggest in my life where I know where I was, and maybe even for you and Sawyer Brown. Like, I don't know that song hit #1 on the main, but it's to me, that's like the biggest. I sing it at home randomly. Yeah. I'll just be walking around, and the race is on. And so, Ray, play a little bit of that for us real quick.
Now the race is on, and here comes pride in the backstretch.
That bass drum, kick it right along with it. When you hear that song, and I say 1989, what do you think about, like, where were you? What was life like?
Well, when I hear that song and not because of me, when I hear that song, sonically, it still holds up. So that's what I think, just as a producer and as a music guy. Like when I hear that, I go, wow, man, we made a great record. But, you know, at the time, Hobie and I were in New York, and we were in like this boutique store, and we had heard this punk rock version of The Race is On. And we were like sitting there. So we were in doing the album. We'd finished the album, and so we're sitting there. And I had this idea of, you know, there's George Jones and there's punk rock, and we're somewhere in the middle of like, we could do this. We could pull this off. But it would have to be like unbelievable, or, you know, you're on like, you know, Howard Ground.
Yeah, you're covering. I mean, the George Jones and the Race is on. I mean, it's got to be so good, or we're like, what were we even trying to do?
Exactly. So we're in the studio. And we're kind of just talking through it, and I think it was Larry London was like in there, and Larry goes, okay. He said, listen, he just starts this beat, and he goes, Mark, he says, Mark's going to come in, and he says, everybody lay out until we get to the chorus, and he says, and then all heck needs to break loose when you get to the chorus. And that's what we did. He just started bump, 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 bump. A VLT is willing, and it was like boom, and we recorded it, and we knew we had something. And Randy Scruggs produced it, and Randy, when we got through, he goes over and calls Jim Fogelsong, was the president of Capitol at the time.
Of Scruggs, as in the Scruggs, Flat Scruggs. Oh, got it.
Yeah. He Earl's son, Randy Scruggs.
Got it.
And he goes over and he calls Jim Fogelsong, who was the president at the time. He gets him out of bed, and he says, "You got to hear this." So he gets out of bed. This is 11 o'clock at night. He comes over. He listens to it, and he just said, "Wow."
Did you think it was going to be a single when you cut it? I mean, it's a cover, obviously, and you changed it. The tempo's much faster. Did you think as you're recording it would just be a fun song to do, or there was a shot that you would put it out?
I didn't. I knew when we finished that night. I knew it was going to be a single. I knew I was going to fight like everything for it to be a single, but I knew it was going to be a battle. But you had the best description, I think, on a TikTok thing of talking about chart positions, because you're exactly right. Some of our songs that went number 1 aren't as big as songs that went number 5, and The Race Is On is a perfect example of that. It was just a huge impact record.
Some Girls Do, 1992. I mean, you guys have so many massive songs, but again, Ray, play a little bit of this.
Well, I ain't first class, but I ain't white trash and wild and a little crazy too. Some girls don't like boys like do.
Like the banjo or the mandolin, it's so deep back in that pocket. Is that a banjo or is it a
It
mandolin?
is. It's
Okay.
Randy Scruggs playing.
It is?
Yeah.
So, again, your music is layered where there is the rock band, but again, you can hear that banjo in the background that gives it the texture of, oh, this is for real.
Well, Some Girls Do was recorded 3 times. I first went to Muscle Shoals, and I got an unbelievable recording of it in Muscle Shoals, but it was too rock, and I knew. But when I wrote Some Girls Do, I thought it was the only song that I've ever written that I knew I had one. I thought, okay, I've written one. This could be something. So I go and record it in Muscle Shoals. It's so good. It's like ZZ Top. It's so rock, so good. I come back to Nashville. I play it for Randy. We go in the studio. We cut it in Nashville. It's so country, I want to throw up.
So it's a complete opposite.
Yeah. I hated it. So I thought, okay, it's got to be somewhere in the middle. So my favorite steel player is J.D. Manis, who played on all those, like California Cool. He's from L.A. We flew J.D. in, and we bring up some of the guys from Muscle Shoals, and we bring in some of the Nashville guys, and we recorded again. I play in both records.
It was that hybrid.
It was a hybrid.
Wow.
Yeah, but the song was that important to me, and it is the Mac Daddy. It's the biggest thing.
To you, that's the one.
Well, they always say, like in your career when things happen and there's a shift, and like I thought Step That Step was it.
Well, that was number 1. It was back. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I thought The Race Is On was it. Then I thought The Walk, and The Walk was huge. But they say you'll know when the one comes on, and Some Girls Do changed our everything. Some Girls Do took us into arenas. That's what that song did.
1993. Thank God for You. Ray, hit this one, please.
Got to thank Mama for the cooking. Dad.
Also, just one of those lifetime jams. It's just you guys have so many. Give me a story about this. 1993. Thank God for You. What comes to mind?
Mac and Ellie. Mac and I wrote 3 or 4 songs. He, of course, wrote all these years. But Mac kind of, like, he and I became really good friends. The first time I went to Muscle Shoals, he played on the stuff with us down there in the 80s. Became great friends. But he also really, really knows the band. And he came up with that chorus, and it was, we recorded all this stuff on Muscle Shoals. All of our stuff, the big hits were in Shoals. Mac and I put a studio in his old house down there, and we would go down there and camp out and make our records.
This is the Coral Reefer?
Yeah.
Mac McAnally?
Yeah.
So cool.
When you get sick, does your voice get deeper?
It does.
Does it like pop? Like pop things? Yeah, Mariah, and things like crack. Boom, and things are exploding. I would feel though, because if I'm doing stand up or anything, and my voice gets much deeper. If yours gets a lot deeper, can you still sing in the same key?
Yeah, I can.
That would be a benefit having a deep voice.
I have to. get up. Like Mac and I did something at the Hall of Fame last Saturday, and I had to get up, and it was going to be like at noon, so I had to get up at like 7 o'clock in the morning and start singing, and try to get the cobwebs off of it, because
that's me every morning. Here we go. It's like 3 o'clock. I want to play another track from Desperado Troubadours, which came out a couple weeks ago. First album in 20 years, by the way. Here is Under This All Hat.
Lord, in another town, leave it all.
You guys, I mean, it's this. The quality is the same.
Yeah.
Your vocal quality is exactly the same.
Yeah. Well,
That's
thank you.
crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not as good as I was last week, and he's been able to keep it, just crush it. Well, listen, we're big fans, really, and they were like, "Hey, Mark wants to come up," and we are pitched a lot of people, and I was like, "Yes, I don't even care what it's about. Absolutely. Is it his new, nude modeling?
Sure.
Doesn't
Bring
matter.
him
Whatever
in.
it is, he can come and do it." Again, such big fans. The documentary. Now that isn't out yet. Is that
Right.
So, but Blake's a part of that too. That I read.
He's the executive producer on that. He wanted to sign on to do that, and he does a huge interview. The documentary is 90 minutes long, but Blake's interview itself, had to be edited. His interview was an hour and a half. The
whole length of the documentary. It
Yeah.
just could have been a Blake interview.
Yeah,
for the documentary.
exactly.
Blake talks about Sawyer Brown. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and what you guys shopping that now to different?
It'll come out on one of the streaming services. We're still working on that deal, but it'll be out before the end of the year.
Do you ever hear your song randomly at like a Mexican restaurant and then point at yourself like, "Hey"?
I will hear, like, we've done so many songs. I will hear a song, and it'll just be real light in the background, and I'll kind of get mad because I'll go, "Man, that's somebody trying to sound like me." And it'll be me.
Funny. Okay, The Boys and Me, My Life in the Country Music Supergroup Sawyer Brown by Mark Miller, who is Sawyer. Sawyer Brown's not a real person, everybody, in case you were wondering. All the tour dates, and you guys are playing a bunch of shows, SawyerBrown.com. You can see all the dates there.
100 cities this year.
Really?
Yeah.
You still? At what point do you start to get tired?
Yeah. I really don't. I'm
Man,
kind
that's
of like,
awesome.
you
You
know.
must not do a morning radio show while you tour.
No.
Because me, it's like
what we
show
do.
3. I'm like, I'm exhausted. Why did I sign up for this?
Yeah.
Congratulations on everything. I'm glad that you put new music out. First album in 20 years.
Yeah.
It's cool that Blake was involved.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, he didn't need him. He didn't need Blake, did he?
No, of course not.
And then also, it's so cool that Larry Bird. Do you ever talk to Larry anymore?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys still are friends?
Yeah.
If you ever play golf again and you need a fourth, I don't care where you are. I will
Okay.
fly. I will come right over and I will say nothing.
Well, I'm working,
I won't even look at eye contact.
I'm working on something for the signed basketball. For
Oh, that'd be really nice, Mark.
Well, Eddie just wants that because Eddie signed my Larry Bird
I know.
ball.
I
I'm
know.
a massive.
Did you really not see that on there? Or
No,
did you
no,
just-
no,
It was my fault. Again, it wasn't all my fault, but I don't want him to feel bad. We were signing balls for our sports show, and that ball was on a table display because we were doing a different show, and then we were just signing, and it's like a assembly line. He just grabbed it, signed it, and moved on. He didn't even know he did it.
Mark,
And-
it was next to all the other balls, so I just
Yeah,
grabbed it,
yeah.
signed it. Didn't even see Larry
The,
Bird's
the
autograph
sports show
on
is
that.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
And you're a terrible basketball player.
And he's a terrible-
not,
I
not
am.
you, Bobby.
I am.
But you're terrible.
But oddly, my kids are really good, so
They
I
are.
don't know. It's
Yeah.
really weird.
Okay, so the book, the record, you'll let us know when the documentary's out.
Yep,
Just let me know, and I'll tell everybody to go check it out. The tour, congratulations. And, I mean, if you ever need a ball player in town, let me know.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Other than that, anything, Eddie, before we go?
No. Just, I mean, if you need another player too, I'm available.
Okay.
Mark.
All of a sudden, his phone doesn't work. Oh, man. I must not have got that text. Mark, thank you, and congratulations on everything.
Thank you, guys. And I'm a huge fan.
Oh,
Huge
thanks,
fan.
man.
My daughter is a huge fan, and she's out there. Hi, Madison. And
Hi, Madison.
She directed the documentary.
Oh,
So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
So does she have, is this the first document? Like, what is her background?
She has her own TV show called Chasing Down Madison Brown on RFD TV.
Oh, that's awesome. So she
Yeah.
knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, let me randomly pick one of my
Yeah.
family members.
Yeah.
You
Right.
Yeah.
produce.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's really cool. Well, we can't wait to see it. Congratulations. That's really cool. And the B side of Blake just doing an interview for 90 minutes. If it's so successful, they just put that out too. Mark Miller of Sawyer Brown. Follow on Instagram at Sawyer Brown Band. and check out the book and the record, and go check them out on tour because they're so good. All right, thanks.
Thank you, man.